Ladies and gentlemen, this is Wonder Boy Brian Morris, and you are listening to the Three Count Podcast.
Live with me. Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club, baby, grind on me. Do you wanna get live with me? Do you wanna get live with me? And do you really
Welcome
wanna
everybody to
ride-
another great edition of the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by, season 4, our 300th and something episode, I would just hope you say with me, I am your Sherpa. Because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you gotta have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficient than you can. And that's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering the ring today? You can find this man at MFPW. That's right, Monster Factory Pro Wrestling. You can find this man at 1CW. You can find this man at AXW. He is fly. He is cool. He is calm. He is the Wonder Boy, Brian Morris.
Thank you very much. What an introduction.
Hell yeah, man. I was like, right before we started cutting this live, I just gotta let you guys know. I was like, I've been hyped about this interview because I feel like we've known each other for like the last couple months, right? So almost like, I feel like it's almost been about a year and we keep seeing each other and passing and stuff. And I feel like we have like this kinship that's going on. So I'm like, I was like, I gotta bring this man on the podcast and talk to him and have some fun and just bring on full conversation. So I was hyped about getting you on the show.
Appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. I love the people that you've already had on. I did some research before coming on, so
We have
I'm
had
a listener as well.
we have had a lot of people from the Monster Factory come on the show, and it is so funny because like every time I see people come on, like the first person I always ask about is Q, right? So Xander, and Q is such a good friend of mine, and I love Q to death. And the funny thing is, I'm actually wearing my Nebraska hoodie. This total coincidence, but because he played football at the University of Nebraska, and then he obviously went to Towson. And one of my friends from my hometown and my high school was like, "Hey, you should get this guy on your podcast because he's trained to be a pro wrestler." And coincidentally, he was in Towson, Maryland. And so like him and I started talking, and then the rest was history. We just became friends after that. So it was just funny that he's there, and then of course the slew of people that have come through.
Yeah, Q's funny because like when I've connected with him about so many things like outside of wrestling. Like he knows a lot of the same people that I do for whatever reason. And like he went to Taos and I went to Elon University, so we were in the same conference. And I think we overlapped a few years there. And then like he just posted about some guy that played football at Princeton, and both of my cousins played football at Princeton. So I was like, well, how do we know this person? Yeah, it's crazy. He knows everybody.
It is crazy to think about like it because it really shows you like how small like the world really is, right? Like people, everybody's like, well, there's like 8 billion people. I was like, yeah, but it seems like you're less than 6 degrees from somebody that there's somebody to know somebody, right? Like we'll always play like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. But like when you play it in life, like you're like, whoa, like especially in the wrestling community, you're always like one connection away from that person who knows that person or worked with that person or they're best friends with that person. Is
Yeah.
To me it's mind boggling, and I'm still getting over it. Like 4 years into this now, like going into my fourth year, I'm still thinking like, damn dude, like how does that person know that person so well?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're always one connection away from somebody like on TV. It's crazy. Yeah.
Facts. So my first question that's going to come to you, right, is who is Brian Morris?
Oh man. The real Brian Morris or like Wonder Boy Brian Morris?
Yes.
Okay. Oh man. Uh a big fan of wrestling for sure. I was always kind of trying to look for a way to get into wrestling ever since I really can remember. It's so funny that I like ended up at the Monster Factory because I remember in middle school and high school, I already had the vision of like, where do I go to train? How do I do this? And they were always on my radar. So I guess you could say I'm a wrestling fan for sure. At the very basis of who I am. But yeah, other than that, I'm a college graduate. I'm a a big a sports guy. I don't know. That was a tough question. That's a good first question right there. I might have to get back to you on that.
It's funny though, man, because I feel like it's weird because like the more I start to talk to people, the more I start to understand that like there's a lot of people who are like in this business that have a degree in college, right? Have a college
Mhm.
degree, right? And it's like, okay, so and I got the question asked to me because like I have my master's degree and someone asked me, they're like, why are you doing this? I was like, because it's fun. And I've been wanting to do this since I was a kid. Like now I get to do it.
No, that's I've gotten the same thing. I mean, I was kind of quiet about like my whole love for wrestling for a while, especially like around my family and friends because you know you never know who's gonna make fun of you for it. So I went to college for sports journalism, and I have a bachelor's in journalism with a minor in sports and event management. And so, to a lot of people, when I started training during my senior year of college, it was they were kind of blindsided by it. They were like, "Wait, you're going to college for this? You've always talked about this, and now you're going to be a wrestler." That's very odd. But yeah, we all get the same reaction, I think.
Well, that was like my thing. I wanted to be involved in the sports community. So crazy enough, my master's degree is in health and sports science, and the whole
Okay.
idea was to be a trainer to help people become athletes. Right, that's what
Hmm.
I wanted to do, and so it took me a while to kind of get my feet under me to figure out like how I'm going to get into the side of the business, and especially coming out of the military, I just didn't know what I was going to do. So like as I'm working and stuff like that, I realized like, yo, I want to be a personal trainer. So become a personal trainer, and I've been doing that for like 18 months now. So full transparency for you guys, it's not like I've been doing this forever, but uh, doing it for like 18 months. And then I was like, I asked my boss, who still trains kids in college to go from D1 to pro. I was like, how do I get into that field? He's like, well, one, I need you to stop training. And this was something that was kind of cool. And I started bringing this up to a lot of other people too, like in the business. I was like, he's like, I need you to stop training like everybody else in this gym, like 99% of the people that are in this gym. And by that, he means stop thinking you're coming in here to look good. While wrestling is a cosmetic business, he's like, you have to think of yourself as a pro athlete, and you're not that person anymore. So he's like, you've been doing this for like 4 years, 5 years in the gym, and sure, you got to look good. He's like, but now you got to start training like an athlete. And I was like, I don't know what that means. So like we started putting programs together. I started learning new things, working on what's called my CSTS, my certified strength and conditioning certification, and like just working to like our specialists and working to become that person. And so to hear you talk about being in the sports, I was like, yeah, I definitely can relate to this.
That's funny. No, my cousin went through the same thing. He got what is it, CS or
CSCS.
Yeah, he got the same thing. He was going down the same path. He played football at Princeton, and then had a few tryouts for NFL teams. So yeah, his I realized real quick his style of going to the gym and working out is much different than everybody else on the planet. So yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy too because like when you're thinking about things, especially like the way you're supposed to be training, like you see a lot of guys and they're like, yo, bro, I do 3 sets of 10 at this weight every day, blah 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 blah. And like, cool. Well, I on a Monday I may do that like a 4 sets of 12, like for chest and back, and then legs may be the same thing, but I'm also doing plyometric work. Plyo what? Like, yeah, yeah. I'm working on speed and agility drills. Like I have to
Mhm.
work on different things every day to keep myself like. Obviously, you want to stay strong because let's be real. Like we want to be strong while we're in the ring, but we also have to be light-footed as well. So it's crazy to have to change your whole mindset. But it was also something cool to be told like and mentored like, hey, this is how we're going to change your whole world. And so now slowly, I have a bunch of other people who are in wrestling right now. They're all doing the programs that I've been passing out like, hey, you should
Oh
try
yeah.
this, you should try that, do this workout, try this workout. And like to see people come back to me and be like, dude, my legs hurt so bad right now. I'm like, I know, right?
Yeah. No, to your point, we have to be strong. We have to look good, but we also have to be in the ring, which means we can't get hurt. I mean, for a lot of people, especially in independent wrestling, this is not our primary source of income. We don't have that luxury yet. So in order to make a name for ourselves and to hopefully move up the ladder, so to speak, you can't get hurt. You have to wrestle every weekend, or every day, or however many times a week. So that's a big part of it too. I mean, you know this, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, strength and conditioning is a massive, massive thing that comes into this like business, which is really crazy to me too. Because you look, and I'm not gonna be that guy, but you look at some of the people that are in the business, and you're like, yo, how are you like here, right? And then you realize that, well, they're light-footed, or they're just really like they're really good at what they're doing, right? And so you're just like, dang, like I need to learn from that person how to do it,
Mhm.
right? Like I would love to sit around one day and just pick Otis's brain, right? In WWE, because like the dude is just he's not your typical athlete. He's not your typical dude. He was and he was a heavyweight college wrestler, but
Mhm.
he's just not your typical person. And I'm like, man, like to be able to just pick your brain and learn how you're doing the things that you're doing, it would blow my mind.
Yeah, no, he's incredibly impressive. I mean, as soon as I saw him on TV, I was like, "Oh my god, who's that guy?" And that's
Yeah.
probably, a lot to do with them noticing him and scouting him in the first place. Um, a lot of guys don't have the luxury of looking, impressive or different than everybody else. He's definitely that guy.
And he's like 5'10", like 5'9",
Yeah, he's
5'10", and he's
tiny.
like 290, 300 pounds. And it's
Yeah,
like, yo, but you are so
yeah,
agile.
no, it's wild. It's wild.
Speaking of wrestling, how did you get into the business?
Oh, get in the business? So I was going to college, and it was my senior year, and I realized like if I didn't try it now, I wouldn't try it. And this is right before COVID. So uh this is like summer of 2021, or sorry, 2019.
Okay.
Um so I found a school that was like 10 minutes from my college apartment. It's the place where Trevor Lee or Cameron Grimes broke in. So I trained there for about 3 months. And then that place actually went under. And then I
Mm,
kind of bounced around places down there for the next few months until I graduated college. That was in North Carolina. So then I came home during COVID. Nothing was open. And then, of course, go back to the Monster Factory, where I always kind of it was always on my radar. So I hit up Danny Cage, the head coach there, and they started training again in August of 2020. So that's when I started there, and I kind of just been there ever since, and been in the business, so to speak, ever since.
that's nice. That's cool though. And I've heard like a lot of great things about Danny Cage and like Missy up there. Like just everybody who has their hands in the pot and training wise, I've heard like nothing but excellent things. And that's why I'm always here. Like man, like I'm like 3 hours away, I think, from the Monster Factory, and
Yeah,
I've always been like intrigued about like wanting to go up there and pop up one day, just kind of like do a session and just
yeah.
like kind of pick the brains of everybody who is up there.
No, I mean, we'd love to have you. That's the thing. I'm glad that you said like pick the brains of everybody, because it's not just the coaches. It's like, you learn so much from Danny and Missy, and when Ricky Reyes was there, him as well. But I mean, in my experience, you look at the people that are next to you, like Goldie or Mimi, who just was signed to NXT and is now back on the Indies. Like watching them and how they carry themselves and how they train and what they focus on. I mean, I learned as much from them as I did from any coach there.
And it's funny too because like for me, I train in Maryland. I train at a Riot City compound with Sikkim, and like he brings up like all these people all the time, so I get like a lot of people to learn from. And I know like here, like I'm getting ready to bounce, right? But recently, and I say this lovingly because he's the man himself, but Ruckus has been coming back up and just like teaching. And so like to be able to pick the brain of someone who was just inducted into the Indie Hall of Fame last year
Mhm.
is incredible. And I'm just asking questions all the time. In fact, like I have to actually start telling Chaz, sorry, Chaz, you're gonna find this out late, but I'm gonna start. We started pushing the podcast back to 6 p.m., which means I kind of want to start pushing back my trainings to 4 p.m. just so I can get more time to learn from somebody else.
Yeah.
But it is cool when you get to learn from someone who went to the Harvard/Yale, as another person would always tell me. of wrestling school.
The Monster Factory? That's what you're calling
Well,
it?
not just a match. No, I'm not gonna call it that one, but I will call it WWE Performance Center, like the Harvard or
No,
Yale.
of course, yeah, yeah. No,
But
no.
Princeton is pretty good, though. I would still call
Princeton's
it the
great.
Princeton.
Princeton's great.
Yeah,
Same
Princeton.
state.
I would say,
Yeah,
yeah.
same thing.
Monster Factory, Princeton, it works.
Yeah. No, I've Danny is really great about bringing a lot of people in who have that experience, for whether it's a seminar or whether it's just for training. I mean, we were talking about this before we started recording, but Gabe Sapolsky, he does all those spaces on Twitter, but he's also going around to a lot of independent schools recently and doing some kind of hands-on scouting. So it was, I mean, kind of a random Tuesday night. Now it's, I guess, a few months ago, and we show up and Gabe Sapolsky's there, and we're just like, great, this is amazing, something completely different and a great opportunity. And but that kind of stuff happens all the time at the factory, so I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, it's cool that someone Gabe like drops in, wants to see everything, kind of pick his brain a little bit. And that's the thing that I love doing, because this podcast essentially is like, I feel like for me, it's like being at mini seminars like all the time, right? So I get to learn something new from everybody. We've done like 300 something episodes of this podcast, and I think we're right now like right at 330 or something like that, with only 2 episodes like having repeated guests. And that was just like, we brought on a person, and then we brought on like the promotion that person was representing. So not that that's a bad thing, but it's so crazy to think like I'm always like grabbing somebody and like wanting to ask them questions. Like, we don't get to share everything here. You guys don't get that, but I get to ask questions about like what they're learning and how they're figuring it out and how they found themselves. Right. It's always fun, because it's like, damn, like to think about, like I'm spending, it's like the old saying they talk about, like the person who spends 10,000 hours becomes the master. And like, that's where I've been like just hounding, like every day. I feel like I bring on somebody new, talk to them, and then we release the episode later, but then I get to sit back with them and talk to them. So it's like my own little seminar. I'm just getting to pick the brains of like whoever comes around.
No, that's a great way to put it. I was thinking about doing something like that. Like, I always listen to Cole Cabana's podcast when he would basically be on a show with somebody and then interview them. And I was thinking about, kind of ripping that off, so to speak, because I have some experience broadcasting and podcasting. But, in order to learn something that would be a great tool, but also just to like force myself to kind of talk to people in locker rooms that I wouldn't interact with mostly, because I'm kind of a very I'm kind of laid back. I'm kind of like, try to get away from everybody a little bit, secluded, I guess. But a pro wrestling locker room, you kind of have to interact with almost everybody there. So no, I can only imagine how much, I can speak for my own experience, where it's like everybody that I talk to in a locker room, has their own unique story and own unique style and how they think about wrestling, and calling a match is always a learning experience, no matter who it's with. And I can only imagine talking to 300 plus people, about that stuff. No, this must be an incredible tool to learn about the business.
And it's always fun too, because like you get to use something like this, and you ask the questions, like, because hey, let's be real. And a lot of wrestlers, like I really need you guys to jot this down, right? So when you hear me say this, because I don't think I've ever mentioned this on the show. One of the hardest things about wrestling is getting booked, right? And you have to learn to network. And so what this podcast is able to do, let's be real, it does 2 things. 1, it puts me face to face with people that I would probably never be normally interacting with. But 2, I can also help like put people on the map, right? So if I wanted to, I don't know, put on a promotion maybe out of Connecticut, like Test of Strength, right? I reach out to someone like Slick Wagner Brown, and I talk to him like, hey, my name's Cliff. Can I, bring you on? Can I bring you on my podcast? And then from there, it's like, hey, by the way, I'm also a worker too. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like a 2-way street. Like, I'm going to help promote your show and your product. If you could like talk to me, at least make a face-to-face so we have a connection. But yeah, that's where this all like, it became one of those things where like this show became like, hey, what are you doing to stay, active during the pandemic, to, hey, how are you figuring out like how to network and meet people? And so that's where like, that's really like the strategy behind, I don't want to call it strategy, but really the thought process behind it, I guess the strategy behind it. But yeah, that's where we were at.
No, I mean it's a great strategy. I mean, a lot of so many people don't get how, you're an independent pro wrestler, but I mean, at the start, I guess you kind of have to, go to a show or tag along with somebody and, ask if you can help out the promoter or help out anybody on the show and bring your gear with you. You might wrestle, you might not, but if nothing else, you get in front of the person that's booking that show. Um, that is the grind of it. And I think, I'm very fortunate recently to be in a position where like I haven't done that in a while because, people have been reaching out to me, but like I'll, I'll never, take that experience for granted where it was like, hop in this car with this person who's booked in Connecticut or Massachusetts and ride up there and get in front of the guy. And, maybe he likes you, maybe he doesn't, but that's how you have to do it, starting out.
Yeah. Or, you have some friends who talk about another person and how they want to do all the driving and go all the way down to North Carolina and back in one shot. Like, I've heard that story before.
Oh, I've done that. Have you heard it from me? I did that a few times. Yeah, that was
No,
great.
but somebody else who was on the podcast has definitely told us about those nights.
Oh god.
I'm not gonna say who, but let's just say it's guaranteed. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, yeah. No. He didn't do any of the driving, so I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's complaining about.
He's not complaining. No, he was putting over. He was like, hey,
No, of
like
course.
he does all the driving, and I was just sitting in his car.
Yeah. No. Mike's the best. Mike's the best. I'll ride with that guy anywhere. I mean, I'm sure he was entertaining on this podcast. That dude is, yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and that's why I say like you meet like one person and you find out that they're training like at the Monster Factory, and then you meet like 5 or 6 different people who all same have like are all there, right? A person might find themselves to be, I don't know, quite hilarious and have the gift of gab, or some people will just have a punchable face, right?
Mm,
So like there's all sorts of different personalities that you can meet at different schools. And that's why I love the networking aspect of like this business, because I can meet this person to meet that person who can put me in touch with this promoter, right? And I
mhm.
can talk to that promoter and get them on board. So it for those who don't know, like networking is like essential in this business, and you have to be willing to meet people, right? Because otherwise, you sit around and you're kind of like, well, I'm a trained wrestler. Cool. So are like 5,000 other people every
Yeah.
other month.
Yeah. No, there's so many people who who I've seen who are training right now and they're kind of waiting um for the next thing to happen where it's like, do you have gear? Okay, then come with us. Like this is how you get booked on shows. But you see so many people who just like are just waiting. They're just like, yeah, I'm here, hopefully somebody will see me. It's like, no, you have to get yourself out there, and that's a weird thing to come to terms with, especially like when you might not be comfortable doing that, or when we don't have an experience in any sort of industry that is even remotely close to pro wrestling in terms of networking and meeting people and getting in front of people.
Yeah, and I think that's where like the more social you become, like, and there's no doubt, like when you and I are at 1CW, like it's pretty clear I'm a fucking social butterfly. Like I'm literally like 1 minute you're gonna see me here talking to people, and then you're gonna see me over here, and then I'll be back over here, and then I'm here, and then I'm back to this circle, and I'm in the center somewhere. Like I'm
And in between,
always
you're
just going
taking
around.
promo pictures with everybody in the locker room. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the hey, on the real, hey, those photobomb photos are starting to really catch on, which
Those are the best.
I
That's such a good
really
idea. I should just
appreciate.
do that. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was just like, and the funny thing was, it's like, well, Red Dog is all like Deadpool, and it would just only make sense that if Red Dog would just randomly appear in like somebody's photo. So when we're all like flipping through the gallery, right, all of a sudden just like
Like,
there's
wait.
Red.
Yeah.
Why is he? Why is he in a picture with Becca? Why was he in
Yeah.
a picture with Noah Idol? Why is he in a picture with Gia Sky? Like, why?
Yeah.
What is he doing? You're
Yeah.
just like, I'm popping in, hanging out. But I gotta ask, right? Because you've been in for a little bit, right? We're talking about 2019, and I'm sure you have one of these stories. But what's the worst bump you've taken?
Oh. Oh, okay. Uh, I've been pretty fortunate to never. I've really never been hurt in a match. Um, knock on wood. But in training, the first time, it was such a weird one. I took like the Randy Orton scoop power slam thing, and that was the only time where I like really hit my head hard. And it wasn't like landing on it; it was like whiplash. And when I
Mm.
landed, and that was the only time that I can remember in training where I took a bump and I was like, "Oh my god, that that wasn't right." But otherwise, I've been pretty fortunate. How about you?
Yeah, no, so that's a great question. I took a couple of them, right? Uh, it was so at Riot City. A lot of people don't know this, and I'm gonna tell them. Pull the whole curtain back. We train outdoors, and it was March of 2020, right before the national shutdown. And I thought to myself, I've been practicing these bumps for about 2 months now. I should be able to do something cool. And I tried to do Akira Tozawa's like senton splash,
Oh
and
no!
yeah, and I also didn't land in the center of the ring. In fact, I landed like right next to the buckle, and
Ugh,
there was no give, and all the air in my lungs went away. Like
ugh.
that was instant. And I remember Sicken looking at me, and he goes, "Did we learn something?" I was like, "Yeah, we learned a lot."
Yeah,
It's
a
like never
straight
again.
back bump from the top.
Yes. Oh yeah, and off of a jump, not just like a like we're
Yeah, not
not
even a
here and
fall.
then we just go. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
were going
Ugh.
up and down. Oh
Whenever he
yeah,
does
was
that, I cringe. God,
yeah, and I'm like, I don't know how he does that night after night. Like I just don't. I'm not
no.
understanding that concept. And then the second one, funny enough, was on a power slam. This is Randy Orton. Um, I got I got told, hey, you know, work this move and just follow me. And I thought I had the idea down. And so as I'm running, the other person loads up for the slam. And instead of catching me and me like flipping properly, I scorpioned.
Ugh,
Just
ugh.
falling over.
Oh god. No, I've never like landed on my head. Thank goodness. Yeah, I'm like notorious with my friends of like the guy who doesn't do anything crazy. Like I won't,
Mm.
somebody will be like, "How about you take a bump on the apron?" I'm like, "No,
Mm.
do something else." But
Yeah.
no, that served me well so far. I haven't been in the business too long, but I've never really been, hurt from a match or, whatever.
I'm only gonna take apron bumps like if we're both on the ground and you're like gonna drop me like a back body drop onto
Yeah.
it. And I've done that a couple times. In fact, I was working a match in Lewistown, right? And I went to do a back body drop on a friend of mine. I won't mention his name. He knows who he is. I went to do a back body drop, and it wasn't his fault, 100%. That's why I say this. But I left my arm. It was a low boy ring, and I left my arm down. And when he landed, I hyperextended my elbow,
Ugh.
which I was fortunate. I was fortunate that like that was it. And I couldn't really. At first, I couldn't feel my fingers, and then when I rolled back into the ring, like I felt a tingling sensation, so I could start gripping things again. And he was like, "You okay?" I was like, "Yo, it's my hand. It's all right. Let's just keep going." And I wrestled the rest of the match pretty much one handed. And I was like, "Bro, this is so crazy." And like even doing like moonsaults and stuff like that, like I was still like doing all the just things that were just asked to do. And then like at the end of the match, my arm like came back full force, and I was like, "All right, we're good. Let's just get we'll wrap this up." And that's what ended up happening. But yeah, but always when I go on like a standard ring, or even like a tall boy, like I can, I'll take back five drops on the apron because it's not that bad. It's like a 6 inch drop. It's
Yeah.
okay. I can take that. But I'm just probably not doing a back by drop to somebody on a low boy again.
No.
I will be nervous about it. I'll gladly take that slam, but I'll be nervous about giving it since I'm dumb enough to leave my arm there.
Yeah. No, I'm more of a stay in the ring kind of guy. Yeah. I'll stay in there. Maybe give me like one of these on the apron. I don't know. Something like that.
I do like that. But that goes back to like great part of like wrestling matches is that like you don't have to go outside the ring to tell a good story. You could tell a great story in the ring, and that's I too prefer to stay in the ring because like you're not doing crazy things, but you are doing some fun things. Like if you tell the story right.
Yeah. No, I very much subscribe to the theory of like try to tell the story with doing, as little as possible. because for two reasons. Number one, like self-preservation. Obviously, you don't want to get hurt. You want to be there for the next night or the next week or the next month. So get that reaction without, killing yourself in the ring. But also, it's when you do something really big after not doing too much, that pop's going to be even bigger and that reaction is going to be even bigger. So really make everything mean something, especially that one big thing that you do. It's going to mean even more if they haven't seen anything like that so far in the match.
Yeah, yeah, no, you have a great point with that. Um, and it's fun because like I love being able to like start small and do like the little things and then work towards a bigger part. I think the psychology side behind it, I love like asking those questions like off air with people because to pick their brain and to like understand like where they come from or how they tell this story, how they want to do this, or how their character interacts with different people. Like it's so much fun. And I'm like, bro, this is the world. This is what needs to be told about, but no one gets to know because we don't want to pull back the curtain too far.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, as soon as I kind of became a heel everywhere I go, it wasn't like a light bulb, but it was definitely like, oh, you can get this reaction and you can, tell the story that you want to tell without doing almost anything, you know? And that, that it takes a lot more than just, the physicality in the ring to do that. You have to be, compelling and your entrance and your entire presentation. And maybe if you get a promo, you have to draw them in with that. That all has to be good too. But for me right now, the way I'm looking at my presentation, the moves are secondary to say the least. Everything else I do is definitely the center of my focus because I want the fans to care about me when they see me, to care about me when I get in the ring, and then hopefully I can make them care about the other person even more when I'm in there too.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand because like for me, I think like character work is what really drives my whole thing. Like I have to be like I have to be high octane energy like all the time, right? Like I feel like even from my entrance, whether I'm working face or heel, to like when I leave that ring, like I just total like energy dump. And like
Yeah,
when I leave, like I just want to be completely exhausted because I want fans to know like, hey, like you're getting all this energy and it's gonna be fun. But it's kind of just it's gonna be one of those fun things that I get to do, just enjoy the run of just like, hey, here I am, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm gonna tell you guys, and you guys cheer me or you guys boo me depending on like where I'm at. But I love the fact because like for you, I watch you work as a heel and it is so much fun to watch because like people genuinely I feel like people they get it, but then like while you're in that ring, man, it seems like people really want to jump over the barrier and try to fight you.
yeah, yeah. I love it, especially in Delaware. I really get
Yeah.
the Delaware people. No, yeah, it's a blast. It's a blast. That's when I have the most fun because I kind of I think we all have, whatever negative energy is in our body. You always want to scream or say something to somebody that you can't say, in public. And when when I'm under the guise of that character, I can really let that out, because I'm in character. But no, it's pretty therapeutic to do that sometimes to get people
It
really
re-
mad at me.
it
And
really is.
then make them happy at the end by getting beat up. So
Right? Or like, sometimes you just kind of sit in the back and some random fan comes up to you and gives you a hug and then tells you that they're sorry they yelled at you. And then I just laugh and I just tell them like it's fine.
right.
Yeah, that's like that happened to me. So it was a night that Pure Ignorance won the 1CW tag
Ugh.
titles, right? And they won them from Art of War and or no, it was Art of War? Yeah, Art of War and Workhorses.
Mhm.
And this lady was just in my face. And I'm working heel, right? It's the first time that I get to work heel at a promotion, really. And I'm in this lady goes, your boy in the ring right now is looking a little frail. And I was like, you can't even spell frail. I was like, go on. spell it for me. And she was like, F art. And I just walked away. And I just see the red in her face, like the blood boiling over. And it got worse and worse as the night went on. And then finally she was just like, I'll tell you the rest. I'm sorry for those, but I'll tell you the rest because like she got so blown. She said some stuff that she like immediately regretted, and I just didn't. And I just said something back and walked away. And I grabbed the guys and we all left. And then in intermission, like we started talking again, and she was just like, "I'm so sorry. It's fine. Don't worry about it." I was
That's
like,
good.
"We understand."
Well,
But
you got a happy ending at least. I'm always
yeah,
fascinated with like what the line is, because like every time I walk out and I see somebody with a bottle of water, I just want to like get it and like spray it in their face. But you can't sometimes. Sometimes you get
yeah,
the promoter won't ever book you again if you do something like that. But
facts.
but no, I'm always fascinated with like how far can you go without within it being still a performance,
Yeah.
and not actually getting somebody that wants to hurt me in real life. And hopefully you can turn around and say, hey, you can buy my t-shirt and pictures over there too. So hopefully you don't get
If you don't like me that much, you can pay $10 and I won't come
exactly
back.
right.
Buy it and then come back the next month.
Dude, there was somebody at AXW two weekends ago, and they were like, "Oh my god, I really hated you in the ring, and like, I'm glad that you had to wear those chicken suits for all of intermission." I was like, "Yeah, you can. Don't you hate this picture of me?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Give me $10 and you can go burn it." And they were like, "No, I'm not that dumb." And I was like,
Hey, but that's a great thought process. Like,
"Right?
well, if you don't like
Yeah,
me that much, you can also like, just poke out the eyes and stuff
yeah,
like that, thumbtacks,
yeah.
whatever.
Deface my 8x10. Just pay me
Yeah,
for it."
it's just yeah. I like that. So let me ask though, because you kind of brought up like a good point about like how far you can go and obviously lessons that you learn because you do things. What's one of the hardest lessons you've had to learn being in the business?
Oof. Hardest lesson I had to learn. Um, Probably that wherever you go, by default, people don't know you and they don't care about you. So you have to make them care about you. If you have 5 minutes to go out and perform, you have to make them care about you in 5 minutes. And that's not just for the good of the show or the good of the person that you're working. It's for your own good because you're trying to make money there too. So, if I get paid whatever my rate is and then I, make double that with merch, I did a good job. People care about me. Um, and for, in order to make money doing this, and in order to take care of yourself, you have to make everybody care about you from the moment that they see you for the first time, which is really tough because I think a lot of people that get in the business, they watch all these great matches that everybody loves. And they think, oh, if I go do that in the ring, they'll care about me and they'll treat me like one of those wrestlers. And it's like, no, that guy is that guy because he has name value and he put years of work into building that character, into building that story. And nobody knows you. And you don't have the luxury of going out and everybody knowing who you are without you doing anything. That's probably the toughest because that was a really rude awakening for me when I first started wrestling as like the white meat baby face, the nondescript kid who is having these good matches with people that are established. Nobody cared about me still because I really wasn't making that connection. And I think that, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, as a heel, or when I work heel, it's much easier to get them to care about you, whether it's loving you or hating you, right as you walk through the curtain. That's probably the toughest thing that I had to learn. Nobody cares about you, so make them care.
Yeah, I feel like that was like a lesson I learned like working like as a baby face. Like I feel for me, I like had this natural charisma of like getting people to like move towards me and like cheer me, right? And in the first couple of matches I've ever had, like it just wasn't it didn't work. It worked, but it didn't work because like the way my character was supposed to be portrayed was like very serious and stoic, and like he's just supposed to be very bland, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's a problem because the thing about people that are like that are military, right, is that we have this notion, this pre-notion that all these military dudes are very stoic. They're very like tactical. They think before everything. They're like they work on a body part. We're like, no, dude, a lot of the guys in the military are very dark humor. We laugh all the time at shit that we're not supposed to be laughing about. And like I feel like that's something that needs to be kind of talked about. And so like for me, I was like, let me just spin this on its head and get these people to connect to me on a whole different plane. And I started seeing that. And then I was like, well, if I can get them to like me on a whole different plane, just me coming out and saying like, let's go, or come on, right? I got to the point where it's like, this place is the worst place I've ever seen, and I've been to Iraq. And then people are like, what the
Yeah.
boo? You know?
Yeah.
And then you just see like people's faces drop, they get mad. I'm like, what? I was like, I'm just being honest. You guys are just upset. And then like I can see like the drastic change, and then from there you can just feed the fire just more and more from it.
Yeah. No, that's certainly I mean, I imagine that's a super different dynamic than anybody or than any of those people I'd ever seen. So yeah.
So before we get into the best segment of the 3 Count podcast, I got to ask one question because you've been around in a lot of different places in a lot of different states. So I do need one do and one don't of the locker room.
One do and one don't. Do shake everybody's hand. Introduce yourself to everybody. And something that I've gotten better at is if you like somebody's work that you're sharing a locker room with, go up and tell them that. You know, everybody loves to hear compliments, and that probably means a lot to them. And yeah, so I've been getting better at that. So definitely do that. Um, don't be disrespectful. Realize that you know, you're all in this together, so to speak. You're all trying to put on a good show. So if somebody needs help, go help them. Don't think you're bigger than anybody else in the locker room. And you know, and treat everybody with respect because you are in the same locker room. You are on the same show. So in a sense, you know, you're at the same spot. So yeah, don't be disrespectful. Do be respectful. That's original, right? I bet you had never heard that one before.
But it is something that you got to keep hammering home, right? Like always be respectful to somebody, and that's just in life too. Like just be respectful to somebody, right? And don't be that guy, right? I say that jokingly because sometimes I'll be like, I'm that guy, but don't be that guy that's so disrespectful in the locker room that people don't want to be around you, right? Like, and don't be disrespectful, period. But don't be disrespectful to the point where people are like, hey, yo, I'm gonna take this dude outside real quick. Everybody else just stay here, because otherwise, one, you're not coming back to the locker room, and two, you're probably not coming back to that promotion either. So like, be P's and Q's always.
Yeah.
So let's jump into my favorite segment of the 3 Count podcast. That is the 3 Count podcast, 10 count questions. And Mr. Morris, this is how it works. I'm going to fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast. And whatever your answer is, that's your answer.
Okay.
So we're going to put on an imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing! And in the words of Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite cartoon?
South Park.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite movie?
Heat.
Let's go. PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
Favorite actor?
Matt Damon. Sure.
I like it. Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Favorite podcast?
The 3 Count podcast.
Right? I feel like it might be marketed and secretly like seeping into people's brains like this is their favorite podcast.
Yeah.
Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
The only people that I'd say are people that have been on here before. I'm not sure you've had Chris Desmond on here.
I have not.
So you should get him. He's a good one. He's gonna be a star in this business for sure.
Okay.
So you're gonna want to get him.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna reach out. Definitely. And then last but not least, my favorite question asked to every single person who comes on this show. Favorite curse word?
Shit, probably. I use it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I like Not me. It's straight fuck. Like it's
Yeah.
just there's no yeah. The F word is the best word to me. But I definitely am a fan of the people who say shit because
Mm.
you just like the word fuck. You can use that in multifacets of like everything.
You
Like
can put things
everything
on it
can
too. You
yeah.
can
Or
put
you can
full
just
in front of it. Yeah.
yeah. Or you can insert it into words.
Exactly. Yes.
I
Naming two
love
different
being able to do
things.
that.
Bullshit, not good, hot shit. Kind of good,
Yeah, yeah,
you
kind
know?
of good. Like yeah, fire. But those are all my questions and stuff. So the last thing I need from you is to let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
Oh man, I am at Brian G. Morris on everything. Everything. You can find me at the Monster Factory this weekend. I'm not sure when this is coming out, but what is it? May 13th, Saturday night, Monster Factory Pro Wrestling. I am in a 6-man tag match honoring one of our past brothers, Jimmy the Jester. The show will be honoring him and his memory. It is myself, Nick Batty, and Chris Desmond, world renowned, against the Golden Era and Bobby Buffet in the main event. So that'll be a good one. And I'll be at 1CW on May 20th. The coronation of Wonder Boy Brian Morris will take place in Houston, Delaware on May 20th. So those are my next two spots where I'll be.
Bet. And then don't worry, because he posts up everywhere he's gonna be for the rest of the year. So all you gotta do is
Yes.
just follow him and he will let you know where he's gonna be at. But like every great part of a wrestling match, we got to take this home because this is the Three Count Podcast presents Now Entering. And like I said, I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Glitter, the man that leads you up this mountain called wrestling. And like every good Sherpa, which I like to think I am, it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering the ring? You see him right there. Wonder Boy himself, Brian Morrison. You guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there, or you're legitimately following us on all of our social media platforms. You're even subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're following us on Spotify. You're leaving us 5-star Frost Ash reviews that you can leave on Apple Podcasts. You're even listening to us on Amazon Music because we are there too. You're buying all of our merch. You're telling all your friends about us. You're telling your family about us. You're telling your enemies about us because maybe you don't like us and you want them to listen to something else. And they can listen to us. And then maybe they might like it or maybe not. I don't know. But you're also just doing good things out there. I'm kidding. You're either waiting for this episode to end, you're waiting for the outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii.
What's going on? It is Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is just kind of show some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3 Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better. So we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on foryourwear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love because we want to give it right back to y'all. So in the meantime, between time, love y'all.